This is Lacey Rice with KySports.TV talking to Kentucky State University head football coach John L. Smith. Coach Smith is in his second year at Kentucky State as the head coach, and last year was highlighted by the team winning the West Division for the first time in program history. Him being named Coach of the Year for the SIAC, or Southern Intercollegiate Athletic Conference, and him also having 4 players selected for an HBCU postseason game. So, right. Coach Smith, seems like you got off to a great start last year, or a terrific start last year.
Well, we did, and it's a tribute to our coaches and our kids because they continued to work hard throughout the year. And actually, Lacey, the latter half of the season, we started to develop and turn into a pretty good football team. It took us the first half of the season to learn, to develop, to get there. But the latter half, we stepped up and we were a decent football team. And like I said, it's a tribute to our kids, a tribute to our coaches.
Okay. And last year, around the time that you were brought in, I know it was a little more difficult for you to recruit the players that you wanted. So you had a lot of returners from a program that hadn't really had too much success in previous seasons.
Right.
How were you able to get them to buy in?
Well, it's just a matter of time, and I've always said this. Normally when you go into a new place, you're going to get 3 different groups. There's going to be a group that's going to accept you and buy in immediately. They're just, that's the way they are. Whatever coach says is gospel. And then there's always a group that's going to say, show me. You have to prove yourself to them as a program, as a staff. And then there's a group that's never going to buy in. And so what you try to do is hopefully that latter group that it's never going to buy in is as small as possible, because the last thing you want is to divorce, is to have to get rid of some guys. But it's always the case wherever I've been that some guys have to leave, and then the group in the middle, once you've proven to them that, okay, we're buying into what this guy's saying or what these coaches are saying and how they're coaching us and all of that, and eventually at about the midway point, that big group in the middle bought in, and everybody kind of got on the same page from there. And if you're not on the same page as a football team, as you know, that you're not going to win. So that's kind of how it took place.
Okay. Well, you had, some successes last year. You won Circle City Classic, which is one of the major HBCU football classics in the United States. You kept the streak going against Central State, Kentucky State's natural rivalry, who, unfortunately, when I was in school, we weren't even, I don't want to talk bad about my former schoolmates, but we shouldn't have been on the same field as them. But you've kept this streak alive. You won last year against them. Then you beat some teams that we had not beaten in a while, some powers like Albany State, Tuskegee, Fort Valley. And so your players, they definitely played very hard. They gave us some exciting football.
Right.
And so can you talk about some of those players, especially the ones who are returning and the ones that actually made the season go last year?
Well, Lacey, I believe that our mainstay last year was our defense. And those guys just continue to get better all year long. And we ended up losing a couple guys that are very good football players for us. Coming back now, we have very few seniors this year, and that's what people don't really understand, that we only have a few. We're a young football team. But those vets that are coming back in a Rodriguez Jones at defensive end played extremely well. And we're expecting big things from him this year. Donovan Cecil, inside on the D-line, a tackle for us, played extremely well, and we're expecting a lot from him. Bo Johnson, who was a quarterback for us, we've moved to that side of the ball, and now as a safety, I shouldn't say this, but had he been there for a couple years, I really think it's his true spot. He played quarterback here in the past because of necessity. But he's going to end up being a real fine safety for us. And then on the corner, we have Ryan Luckett, who's going to be a senior out at the corner spot. And he's a good football player. I mean, he just does everything that we ask, a kid out of Florida. And even better about these guys, they're all good students, and some real good students, and they're all going to get their degrees. So I would say that's probably the four guys on that side of the ball that we're going to have to ride their back, because there's not a lot of them there. On the other side of the ball, you have Lavelle Cloyd, who's a senior, coming back, running back, ended up having a big latter half of the season for us. And again, a guy that we moved from wide receiver to running back, so it was a learning process for him as well. He's on that side of the ball and will help us a bunch there. And then we have a wide receiver over on that side, and Jalen Johnson, who is right now going to have to step up his game and help us a bunch as well. So having those very few, a half dozen seniors, they have to carry the load as far as the leadership goes.
Right. Okay. And it seemed also like coming in, you set some lofty goals for yourself.
Right.
I know you wanted a big squad, because of course that helps with practicing and everything else. And you also came in with the philosophy. I know last year you were saying that you wanted to throw the ball a lot, but it seemed like you did have to go to the run a bit more often last year. But then again, too, you also said that you were going to assess your personnel and adjust as needed.
And adjust.
Right. And so this year, are you using that philosophy?
Well, yeah, we're going to adjust, and we're going to do what we do best. And the thing about throwing the football, it's great. Okay, and everybody likes to see the ball in the air. I mean, the fans and everybody. So our ability to go out and get what we would call more of a throwing quarterback, and I think we have a guy in Paul Campbell. He's a big, tall, good-looking guy that can throw it around a little bit. So we should throw it around a little bit more and be much more successful than we were. But that being said, there always comes a point in every game where you have to run the ball to win. There's going to be a point, whether it be early or it may be late, that you have to run the ball to win. So that being said, we're going to have to rely on some of the running backs. New guys coming in to help Cloyd is going to be Brett Sill. There's a young, just a freshman coming in that we're expecting big things out of. So that onus falls on the offensive line. And how quick they develop, how quick the freshmen coming in that are in backup roles and that are going to have to play or ready to play is going to be a big key for us. So that offensive front is a huge key, not only running the ball but throwing the ball, as you well know. So we're just going to have to develop and get better on that side of the football, and I think we will this year.
Okay. Well, I think you shocked a lot of people last year. I know, to be honest, I wasn't expecting Kentucky State to win the division. I know a lot of other alumni weren't expected, because we were looking that this was going to have to be a building process. But then again, you have a successful track record as a builder. You came into University of Louisville, which also happens to be another one of my alma maters.
I've been in all your places.
During the time that it was struggling, had struggled for quite a few years. You came in and you started what we see now with University of Louisville actually began with you. And then you also went down to Division II to Fort Lewis College and took over a program that had no wins.
Right.
And within 3 years, you had them up to 7 wins. It was a process. 3 wins the first year, 4 wins the second year, but then that jump to 7 wins before you came back to Kentucky to take over Kentucky State.
And that's that's the way people have to realize that it's going to be here. The first year even though we had some success, we want to build on that success, but it's a building process. Like I said, we've only got a few seniors. So the great thing is you want to have 120 kids to start minimum, start fall camp, which we did last year. Now you end up the season with only about 60. So this year we start with another 120, and hopefully we'll end up with 100 when the season ends, and then the following year start with another 120, end up with 110, 120, and keep everybody in the program. So that's what we'd like to do, and continue to recruit and get better walk-ons as well. We have to believe in the walk-on program, because again, we don't have scholarships to give everybody. We have to split everything up, which we are doing. We expect that talent to grow and get better, but we have to rely on kids walking on this program and showing us that they deserve some scholarship money. So for us to survive and to get good, we have to continue to do that. And this year will be better than last year, and then next year will be better than this year.
Right. Okay. Now, we talked about your players a little bit. Can you talk about some of your coaches? One of your coaches actually was picked to coach on the HBCU All-Star team.
Right. That's Coach Smeelan. Coach Smeelan had been with me for a long, long time. He was with me at Utah State, at University of Louisville, at Michigan State. Has coached at Army, was his last stint before coming here. So bringing him back and getting him to work on the defense and coach the defense for us was a big, big plus. And then he was selected last year to go coach at the All-Star game, and he was fortunate enough to be able to take a few of our guys and coach those guys on that All-Star team while he was there. But he's been with me for a long time, and I put a lot of responsibility on him, and that's one side of the ball that you don't have to worry about. He'll get it done over there.
Well, as successful as some of your team, a lot of your teams have been on offense, and a lot of people, I guess, forget that you actually made your bread and butter as a defensive coordinator.
Right.
And even when Coach Petrino brought you back to, brought you out of the broadcast booth, actually.
Yeah.
You were a special teams coach or special teams coordinator, and have also made a reputation for yourself on that end.
Right.
And so, have you? I know you said that Coach Smeelan, that you kind of let him do his thing on the defensive side.
Right.
Are you working more with the special teams or on the offense, or?
Lacey, yes, and I have done. Ever since I became a head coach, that was kind of the part of the football game that, the offensive coordinator doesn't want to do it, and the defensive coordinator doesn't want to do it, and none of the assistants want to do it. So the only way to make it important was for me as a head coach to say, I'm going to do it, and you're all going to help.
Right.
So I've always been that way, and I've always coached the special teams, and it's just something that I've always done. And I guess the reason being, again, was to apply importance to it. And hopefully the offensive coaches, defensive coaches would think it's important and coach it, which it is important. It can win you a ton of games. So I spend a lot of time there, and then I stick my nose in offensively. They don't like me to do that, but of course, as every head coach, you got to stick your nose in somewhere. But that's kind of the way we have it organized.
Okay. Well, Coach, as we start wrapping up, can you give us some advice for those young men who might want to play at this level or play collegiate football, period? How do they get in contact with you, or what are you looking for out of those high school players that will make you want to bring them to Kentucky State?
Right. Well, first, in our recruiting process, we're a big believer that we have to recruit the state. Recruit your own backyard before you go someplace else, and that's what we've tried to do. We try to get out 2 springs in a row now. We go out and at least hit the high schools. So if there are any high school coaches out there that have guys that they think can play, maybe not a Division I caliber player, but the pool at Division II is much, much larger. So please contact us, and any players that are out there that believe they can play. Because recruiting is not an exact science by any means. We make tons of mistakes, and coaches make tons of mistakes. You'll see it in the NFL draft. You see it at every level. Okay, so if you have a belief that you can play and you really have the heart to play and want to play college ball, then either your coach or you contact us, and all it takes is going on the internet and putting in KYSU, Kentucky State University, and look up our web, and you'll have a means to contact us.
Okay. And the last question I have for you, Coach, is can you give us a brief synopsis on this upcoming season?
Right. Well, we're expecting, again, to be a young football team that's going to have experience some growing pains. The thing about being a young football team is you look at it and you say, oh, boy, we're going to get better. We're going to get better. We're going to get better. And you do. The bad thing about being a young football team is you're going to make mistakes. So you're going to make mistakes along the road. So we have to have some patience and believe in that, okay, there's a maturation process, and it's going to take us a while. You know, with only a handful of seniors, it's a great thing, and you have to put a lot of pressure on those guys to help lead us. It's a great thing that you look at it and say, okay, our football team is going to grow and is going to get better. But the bad thing is we're going to make some mistakes along the way. But I'm going to relate it a little bit like we were last year. You know, we have to continue to work on it, continue to grow, and by mid-season on, I think we'll be a pretty good football team.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Coach, for taking out this time to speak to us, and we wish you all the best this year.
Thanks, Lacey. Appreciate you.
All right.